The HeLa cell has become a very useful material for experimental work not only in the study of cancer, but in the field of general cytology.
Cancer, a word no one ever wants to hear. It is the doorway to both unbearable grief and groundbreaking discovery. It is the year 1951 in East Baltimore at Johns Hopkins Gynecology Clinic. A young woman by the name of Henrietta Lacks is told that she has stage 1 cervical cancer. What she didn't know was that the doctor who had informed her had also taken a sample tissue from her tumor without her permission, which was common practice during this time. Her doctor's name was Dr. Howard Jones.
Most tumors are hard to the touch. Hers was soft to the touch. Most tumors are ulcerated. That means that there is an open wound. In her case, that was not the case, but it was like a budding flower almost, so that it was quite different. And therefore, there was even some question when I first saw it as to whether it really was a tumor.
Once he had taken a sample of the tumor, he sent it to be tested for cancer. He gave the sample to the head of his department, Dr. Richard Wesley Talind. Talind was one of the top cervical cancer experts in the country and, like many doctors of his time, often used patients from public wards of hospitals for research, ordinarily without their consent. Many doctors justified this with the belief that because the patients in the public ward were admitted for free, that it was fair to use them as research subjects as a form of payment. In addition, Henrietta was a black woman, and racial prejudice was still prominent in American society during the mid-1900s.
Once Talind had taken Henrietta's cells, he offered them to George Guy. Guy and his wife Margaret had spent years trying to discover the first immortal human cell line, a continuously dividing line of cells all descended from one original sample. Even before George Guy had come by Henrietta's cells, the Guys and their assistants had been growing tissue samples from many different people and cultures to see if any one of them would be the cell line that they wanted so badly to discover. So when they transferred Henrietta's cells to a culture, they thought that the cells would be the same as all the others. They never expected that within 24 hours, the cells would double in amount and continue growing at a drastic rate. Henrietta Lacks' cancerous cells, dubbed HeLa cells, became the first immortal human cell line and began the process of developing many new medical advancements, changing the future of medical science forever.
As soon as word got out that such a discovery had been made, it was only a matter of time before every scientist wanted a sample in their laboratory. HeLa cells were soon hot on the market in the world of science and medicine. HeLa cells were a cheap option for cellular experimentation and easy to come by. In order to transport the cells to places worldwide, scientists developed a method of freezing cells to enable safe transportation of the samples. Not only were HeLa cells used to develop scientific methods, they were also the first sent into space. In addition, HeLa cells initiated breakthroughs in vitro fertilization and in cloning. Using HeLa cells, scientists have been able to make many advancements in the medical field as well. The cells have aided researchers in gaining a better understanding of Parkinson's disease and its symptoms due to certain mitochondrial similarities between the disease and HeLa cells. However, arguably the most important area in which HeLa cells have made a significant impact is the research and development of vaccines.
HeLa cells played a very important role in discovering the polio vaccine. It was because of Henrietta's cells that Dr. George Guy was able to isolate the crippling strand of polio. Because of this important discovery, using Henrietta's cells, researchers were able to begin the process of testing and developing a vaccine for polio, which ultimately resulted in great success as polio vaccine reached distribution in 1955. It is because of Henrietta's cells that polio is close to eradication today. In addition to the triumph over polio, in 1986, research with HeLa cells helped scientists to gain a better understanding of how HIV attacks and invades cell tissue. This research allowed for the development of the idea for a possible vaccine for HIV. These advancements initiated the field of virology, the study of viruses. These developments left scientists wondering if such achievements could be possible with cancer. The question was especially important to virologist Chester Southam. Southam had heard of research conducted with rats in which they grew tumors when injected with HeLa cells, and it made him wonder if the same would happen to humans.
In February 1954, Southam began his research. He injected a solution of saline and HeLa cells into a woman who had recently been hospitalized for treatment of leukemia. He conducted the same experiment on close to a dozen other cancer patients. Southam had never informed any of his test subjects that he was injecting them with cancer. His experiments using HeLa cells and human test subjects led to a firestorm of debate throughout the public, as many argued over his professional standing. Southam was eventually found guilty, along with another doctor who had conducted similar experiments, of fraud or deceit and unprofessional conduct in the practice of medicine. Unfortunately, this ruling had little impact on Southam's professional life, as his only punishment was being placed under temporary probation. His case did, however, have a large impact on future human experimentation and how such research would be viewed and conducted.
Southam's experiments were not the only sparks for controversy. As HeLa cell experimentation was at an all-time high, many other samples that were thought to be cell samples from different tissues such as the breast or prostate were found to be HeLa cells. After this discovery, it was soon found that HeLa cells were able to travel on unwashed hands or dust particles in the air, causing contamination to other cultures in the laboratory. In order to trace these contaminations, scientists needed to somehow track Henrietta's DNA, but it had been 25 years since her death. Therefore, they needed another way to access her genetic pattern. In order to do this, they contacted her children, hoping that they would willingly donate samples in order to solve this genetic mystery. When the Lax family received the information about the HeLa cells, they were shocked and confused. Henrietta's husband, Day, only had a third-grade education. What he heard when they were informed of the situation was very different from the message they were trying to get across.
So Henrietta's husband had a third-grade education. He didn't know what a cell was, and he got this phone call one day, and the way he understood it was essentially, we've got your wife, she's alive in a laboratory. We've been doing research on her for the last 25 years, and now we have to test your children to see if they have the cancer that killed her.
Not only had Henrietta's medical records been made public without her family's consent, but billions of dollars had been exchanged for the infamous HeLa cells without the Lax family having seen a single cent. Henrietta's family had been living in poverty for years, and some could not even afford health care. Ironically, the very thing Henrietta's cells had been used to improve upon for the last quarter century. Henrietta's family has yet to receive any restitution for the HeLa cells, and they have abandoned the idea of suing Johns Hopkins. Rebecca Skloot, the author of the book The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, has started an organization to donate money to the Lacks family and families like them that have received no recompense for removed tissue samples. Henrietta's unforgettable story continues to live on even after her death. One of the most important changes her life has resulted in is the passing of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which was passed in 1996, making it illegal for either healthcare providers or health insurers to release personal medical information to the public. Because of Henrietta's world-renowned cells, our world has been changed forever. Vaccinations and other important medical advancements are now common practice. It is impossible to know what life would be like today if HeLa cells were never discovered, but it is certain that it would be a very different place. Henrietta's immortal cells have been and always will be dividing to conquer diseases, today and in the years to come.